Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Redeem Her Time podcast. I know you guys are going to love this conversation because we're going to be talking about how to move away from being driven by urgency and busyness. Anyone feeling like they are in the driver's seat these days? And instead, we're going to move towards stewarding our work as God's business in a way that allows us to prioritize our faith, our family, and our purpose. And who doesn't want that around here? So I want to introduce you guys to my guest today, Fran Tabor. Fran, so excited to welcome you to the Redeem Her Time podcast. I just want to get to know you a little bit because you and I are just meeting and my audience is just meeting you. So before you talk about the work you do, like just tell us about you. You know, what all are you juggling in this season of life?
Well, this season of life is actually a culmination of the last 50 years. And thank you very much, Lisa, for being on this podcast and letting me share my experiences with your audience. Up until 2 years ago, I was the boss lady. I was running a business. The business at one point had 27 employees. 2008, during the recession, it was down to 8 employees. The last 10 years, it was at about a dozen employees, give or take a couple, depending upon, well, the vagaries of the lives of my employees. That some people had the nerve to move out of state. Sometimes there'd be kids begging for a job. So the exact number always varied. Employees have been very important to me, even though my business started as a very simple mom and pop shop, and we weren't going to have any employees. We were going to keep it simple. Life has a way of just
Right? Someone never say never, they say, right? Or never tell God never.
Absolutely. And we got our first employee in 1978, just a few months after we opened.
Wow.
And we did because we were growing very slowly. We started on a bit of a shoestring. That we had $2,000 to invest in inventory, advertising, mortgage payment, and also all of our living expenses. That was an all or nothing investment.
Wow. Now, just so that we have some background, what was the original business? And,
The original business, we had started several small businesses, some alone, some with other people. They had all failed for various reasons. I call that business 101.
right? Yeah, it's a one big experiment. I tell people, welcome to entrepreneurship, where you get to figure it out as you fly the plane.
And there is nothing like real life to teach you real life.
Right.
You learn things getting in the game and actually trying things way more than you ever will in a classroom.
Yes.
And it's being in the game, being active.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this business we did a very simple plan. We were just going to fix one thing only, vacuums. We weren't going to sell them. We weren't going to have other products except, like bags of belts, things to go
Sure.
with the vacuums. And after about 6 months, we realized that there was a lot more paperwork with even a
Mhm.
very simple repair shop than we thought. Plus, I got pregnant.
Ah,
That was a time-consuming thing.
where you think? Yeah, I always tell people, you
Oh,
think you're busy before you have kids, and then that baby gets put in your arms and you find time.
oh yes, you do. But by having an employee, by accident, we discovered that the best way to handle employee is think of them as an extension of yourself.
Hmm.
And years later, I listened to a person who said that one of the most common mistakes small business people make is thinking of owner versus employee. And really, as an owner, you should say, how many ways can I replace myself? How many ways can I be less obviously needed in the business?
Hmm. Working ourselves out of a job, or at least being replaceable, right? I love that. I
Right.
love that. So, are you
And
still doing the vacuum cleaner business today, or have things kind of shifted over
well,
these years?
I lucked out. May sound like a strange thing to be luck, but about 5 years ago, my mother's health took a downspin. And in 2020, you It was very difficult to have somebody stay with someone.
Mm,
It was very difficult to find room in a nursing home for someone. Plus, my mother was still very, very active. She was just at a point where we four kids did not feel safe having her being by herself all the time.
sure.
I said, okay, I have a business. I now have good employees that can do things. I can be there during the week and then be home on the weekends
Mm,
and take care of whatever I needed to do personally. I
right.
had another brother that lived 200 miles south of us. He could come up on the weekends. Our mother lived exactly between us.
Okay.
It was an hour drive for me to go down to her place. It was an hour drive for him to come up to her place. And so the two of us took turns. The other sister had foster kids, but she visited on a regular basis, bringing foster kids with her, which my mother thoroughly enjoyed. And the fourth brother, he was more financially successful than the rest of us, but he also lived 500 miles away. He
Ah, yeah.
contributed money. We
Sure.
appreciated it.
Okay. Everyone plays their part.
So I ended up taking a year off of my business because I found out when I was home on the weekends, I would spend maybe an hour or two on business related things. But otherwise, I was just going,
Right.
that you don't really sleep when you are watching a loved one. And
Hmm.
my mother was very mobile. So I would find her at 3 o'clock in the morning doing something at the stove. So I was always listening for her to be up. It was like having a baby again.
Yes.
But I had employees that by accident I had been training to replace me. And because of that, I had very few phone calls, what to do if. I had
Hmm.
a few. The modern telephone system is wonderful,
Right.
but they mostly got along without me. And this ended up being a double blessing for me because two of those employees discovered they had managerial skills they didn't know they had.
Oh, interesting.
And they learned more about the inner workings of the business that they otherwise would never, ever have learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
They became serious contenders to buy my business. Now, one of the difficult things about owning a small business is what do you do when you're ready to retire?
Right.
At this point, I am in my mid 70s, and I had to be logical with myself. I wasn't going to stay a healthy 70-some-year-old forever. Small businesses are hard to sell.
Sure.
And my business had grown. It was no longer a little repair shop. It was now in a 10,000 square foot building. We did repair on all kinds of things, including big commercial equipment. We sold sewing machines that went in price from $100 to $10,000. We had acres of fabric. I had all kinds of specialized cleaning up products that you couldn't buy in the regular grocery stores or couldn't buy adequate quality in the regular grocery stores. It, it had grown from that $2,000 to a seven-figure business.
Wow.
It was busy and it was also very specialized. But because I had that year where I was taking care of my mother, I knew those two kids had the ability to manage my business. And I was in a position then where I could sell them the business on time, that they had to put some additional money in it. But going to a bank and saying, I'm going to buy this small business and I need to get a loan for it, it's really tough.
Yes.
But I knew that, okay, they had their practice time. And so I was able to have an exit strategy for my business because they were there and trained to manage the business when I was taking care of my mom.
Hmm.
But part of that happened because it's a husband and wife team, and the wife, when 10, 15 years ago, she was pregnant. I was able to do something that a person in a big corporation normally cannot do. Like I said, our business was barely started, and I got pregnant. I had the baby carrier. I fixed vacuums with that baby carrier on the front of me. I demonstrated vacuums. I waited on customers. I stocked shelves, and then went from the front carrier to the backpack.
Right.
And then when she was a toddler, she was managing a price gun and pricing bags for me.
Oh my
She
word.
was working in the business. It was like the old time farm where the little kids who can barely walk are helping mommy and daddy. And between you and I, when she was 3 and pricing the bags, I could have done it a lot faster alone.
But it kept her busy. It kept her out of things, right?
It kept her busy, and she felt so proud of herself.
I'm sure.
And it's no surprise to me at all that now she runs a school. She's a Montessori school head teacher, and
Oh, wow.
she is responsible for 24 teachers and their students. But she firmly believes that working in the business for mommy and daddy before she could go to school was part of what enabled her to become a head CEO of a school.
Yeah. Look at you. You were training her before you even knew it, right?
Yes. So I knew it was possible.
Mm.
So when my employees got pregnant, I said, bring your kid to work.
Mm.
And I firmly believe in breastfeeding. I said, just clock out. Here's a clean back office. And then clock back in when you and baby are done.
Yeah.
At one point, I had 3 mothers, babies on backpacks, checking out to feed the babies and checking back in. In other words, I was able to live the walk of saying, I want to be family supportive and helping mothers take care of their babies. And like so many people, those mothers did need to contribute to their home
Mm.
income, but they weren't spending their money on daycare, and they weren't taking their babies that they wanted and fostering them off on a stranger. They were stayed part of their life. And because I was able to give that experience to them, it also gave them more loyalty to me because they knew
Mm.
that when I said taking care of my mom was more important to me than
Right.
the extra income I generated at the business, because I was very important for talking to a lot of the commercial customers, especially, or if somebody had more detailed questions about how a given chemical is to be used, I was the go-to person.
Mm.
I said, even though it's going to cost me income wise to be gone, taking care of my mom is more important. And they weren't around when I was doing that with my own babies, but they knew that I had walked that walk with them when they were having their babies. And it made a big difference for their willingness to work with me, to let me do what I needed to do to take care of my family.
Yeah. So I love you got to be mom and entrepreneur, business owner. You let other people be, employees and, moms and things like that. What a gift. So are you still running your business now, or have you sold it to those kids that
They officially bought it December 31st, 2024.
Wow.
So they have now been solely responsible for it for just over a year.
Okay.
They've been doing a very good job. They've made changes in it that, young, energetic eyes make a difference.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
And
Sometimes
I
it's
am,
ready for a little fresh refresh, right?
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? You're a little over
I
a
am
year out.
I am writing full time. I am also very active in Authors of the Flathead, which helps other people write full time.
Hmm.
I'm in hopes of maybe doing more speaking and sharing the fact that if you own the business, don't be afraid of what is always done. Don't let your insurance agent necessarily terrify you. That I had people say, well, how do you dare let people bring their little kids to work? And I said, if my place is so dangerous that you can't have a little kid accidentally walk through places. Now, you want to keep them out of the repair shop,
Sure.
but it's like home. You have places where the kids are allowed to be, not allowed to be, and you just prepare it if the kid ends up in an unexpected place.
Exactly.
And if
Yeah.
you have enough kids over enough time, you're going to find a kid in an unexpected
Right.
place,
Right. Yeah.
and
I
you
love
just
that.
go with it.
So what are you writing about? What kind of books are you pouring yourself into?
I write about business, about what it means to be a small business person, that most business books are written with big CEO in mind, that
Mm.
their idea of a small business is anything less than 500 employees.
Wow, right?
Majority of people in this country either own or work for a business with fewer than 50.
Okay.
And a very high percentage are self-employed or fewer than 5 people. And it's very hard to find literature that is honestly geared
Mm.
toward the business that's really an extension of family. And
Yeah.
so I
Well,
write about that.
this is perfect because my audience are mostly, as I take polls, most of them are still solopreneurs. One day they would love to have a team, or an employee or contractor or that type of thing. So,
Right.
yeah, if we were sitting down having coffee, which is kind of feels like that, what might be like a couple of pieces of advice that you would give to someone who is in that less than five employees category that would help them as you're kind of thinking, let your hindsight be our foresight.
One of the things that I honestly did not fully comprehend until I had been a business owner for 25 years is that the single most important question you can ask yourself when you're thinking about going into a business, whether it's just a side hustle or you want to go all in, is how and why is my community going to be better off just
Mm.
because my business exists? And if you can answer that question, you will have a purpose-driven business.
Okay.
And business is like life. In fact, you can think of business as life.
Yeah.
That which is purpose-driven will withstand the storms.
Mm.
Or if it has to be closed down and reinvented, it'll be to better fill that purpose.
Right.
Now, what made me fully realize how important purpose is because of an incident that happened to me in February of 2009. 2008, for those of us who are older, was a year of a really bad recession. 2007, I had the 27 employees. 2008, I had 8 employees and wasn't too sure if I could afford to keep all of them. I mean, that is just
Yeah.
huge difference. Yeah, that recession hit our local community. Well, to show how bad it hit our local community, in 2007, if I had the misfortune of driving someplace during noon hour, it could take 4 or 5 turns of a red light before I could finally go through the intersection. 2008, there was never a car in front of me. There was so little traffic, you would think it was midnight, not noon,
Mm.
because there just wasn't anybody on the roads. I mean, it was difficult. It was a challenge. At that point in time, I was writing regular articles for the VDTA, Vacuum Dealer Trade Association. And a lot of these articles were written for my personal benefit. It forced me to put into words things I am thinking. And so I wrote a whole article about how a repair business is essential to the economic health of a community.
Mm.
And of course, I use the example, say somebody's cheap vacuum breaks down. They could go to Walmart, buy a new one for $100, and that money spent at Walmart is gone.
Yeah.
It leaves the community. Maybe a few pennies of it stays in the community to help pay the mortgage, help pay an employee, but almost all of it leaves. Now say that same person has a repair shop. He takes it to the repair shop. It costs him $50, maybe even $60 to get it fixed. That money paid to the repairman. All of it, except for the few dollars spent on parts, stays in the community. Your repairman is using it to pay his mortgage, buy his groceries, staying in the community. He takes an extra $40. He can buy milk for the kids' breakfast. His wife can have some money to, maybe buy plants, who knows what. And he even has a couple dollars left over that if he wants a cup of coffee or maybe even something stronger to take home with him, he has it. So his wife is happier, his kids get fed, and he even has a few pennies for a little luxury.
Yeah.
So his home life is better. So by having a repair shop, you help the economic health of your community, because a healthy community, the dollars circulate in that community. The more you can make dollars circulate in the community, the better everybody in that community is off. And you just help that man have a happier marriage. You just helped his kids have a happier time. A repair shop is about the most patriotic thing you can go into. Well, I wrote that and it appeared in, I think it was like an August 2008 edition. 2009 February, I am at the annual VDTA conference, and this stranger comes running up to me and goes, "You're Fran." And I go, "Yeah." "Fran Tabor, right?" "Yeah." "The one that wrote that great article." What great article? And he recited that article almost verbatim. And he said his community, he was in Northern California, and his community had also been hit hard by the recession. And he saw his business as a two-bit failure, last-minute thing to go into. Like any idiot can fix a vacuum. He was almost ashamed of it. And he said his place was small, and he said it looked like a dirt cave, hole-in-the-wall kind of business. He read that, and he goes, "I'm important." And he realized, okay, one thing that's stressed in that article is that not everybody knows how to fix things, or has the time, or has the tools.
Right.
So if you don't have the time or the tools or the knowledge to fix it yourself, you rely on other people. He goes, okay, I guess not everybody can fix a vacuum. And there are homes that don't even have a screwdriver. And then he looked around his shop. Well, if I'm so important, I should look better. He cleaned his windows, cleaned his shelves, organized things. And he made a point of saying hi to everybody that came in his shop, because he now knew he was important. So he could confidently say hi to every one of his customers, because he felt equal to them. Before, he felt excessively humble.
Sure.
And the quality of his work also went up. He said, I saved his business and saved his marriage, and he was very, very grateful. And I'm going, wow. I honestly had no idea that anybody was even reading those articles.
Right? I mean, sometimes that's how I feel about a podcast. Is anybody listening? Are you out there?
Am I just doing this because otherwise I'd be talking to the clothes in the closet?
Right. Yeah.
So first of all, tell me somebody read them, and could they even make a difference? It sure made a difference to him and his family.
Sure.
So first of all, I'm going, oh, I'm nice. Because, we all need those little ego boosts.
Sure. Yeah, it's good to hear.
And I'm going, okay, what made that article so valuable? And then, at this point in time, I am substantially over 21. And for the first time, I realized what made that article valuable and why I wrote it to myself when I was in the nadir of despair. Is a person needs purpose. And I'm familiar with the idea of a purpose-driven life.
Right.
I had fallen in love with Viktor Frankl's book about why it is important to have purpose to your life. And it's dawned on my little pea brain that includes your business.
Yes. Yeah.
It takes articulated purpose.
Yeah.
I knew when I was struggling so hard at the different times when I have trouble that I was doing it for my customers and doing it for my employees, but I had not articulated the importance of it to my customers, to my employees, to myself. It really pays to put down on a piece of paper and handwrite, why is my community going to be better off because I am in this business? Now, your community could be 10,000 strangers on the internet.
Right.
It can be your next door neighbors. It can be your family. But find people, the more people, the better, that are better off because you're in business.
Yeah. I love this, Fran. And you know what? What we always do is we take the conversation off the podcast into our community. And I like to put in a conversation question. So you've just teed us right up, because that's what we're going to be answering. And I always warn my clients, I say, I like to ask hard questions that are going to make you think. So Fran's question is not maybe something that's going to, you might have an immediate answer to. So I'm going to encourage you, as I'm sure Fran would, like write that question out. How is my community better off because my business exists? And sit with that for a little while. Like pray over that. Like keep coming back to it. Keep listening to what your clients and customers are saying, and what needs are out there, and start really formulating this purpose statement
Mhm.
behind what you do. And yes, you're right. We need it on the days where we feel like, is anybody listening? Is this thing
Right.
even working? Why am I doing this? Right? Which is means that our time has so much more purpose behind it when we're showing up with that purpose. So, Fran, what would you say to someone you're seasoned in business, you've been doing this a long time. I love learning from other people who are further down the road. What would you say, one piece of encouragement that you would give to someone listening who maybe is struggling with like really finding that purpose, or really like showing up with purpose? Maybe she knows there's a purpose, but she's so overwhelmed by just all the daily tasks in her business that sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that purpose. What would you say to her as she's listening today?
Well, I'm going to assume first that she found the purpose to her business.
Hmm.
Like if she's a craft person and making cute things, those cute things add joy to somebody else.
Yeah.
So she has that purpose. But she also has to know that she is not just giving, she is receiving.
Hmm.
And the most important, easy way to know you are receiving is to continuously find something to be thankful for.
Hmm.
I mentioned a couple times about the business trauma I went through in 2008. I'm not going to go into the details, but let's just say everything at once failed. I had many times before that given the Be Thankful lecture. It is really, really easy to say that when everything is going.
Right? Yes.
In 2008, I thought, okay, am I going to lose everything? Am I going to lose my business building? Am I going to lose my home? I, and worse, I didn't want anybody to know the
Hmm.
stupid decisions I had made that got me to that point.
Sure.
Pride is a horrible thing.
Right? Yeah.
And it's some, if you're a high achieving person, we have to remember our abilities are gifts. They're
Yeah.
not ours, they're gifts. That
Right.
helps with the pride thing. But I was in a pity party whirlpool.
Hmm.
I was feeling sorry for myself at a level that is just embarrassing to even think about. And then one of the things I had written about the importance of thankfulness almost fell in my lap. It was my own writing. And there was a little voice in the back of my head going, you believed that when you wrote it. Why
Hmm.
not now? Yeah, well, when I wrote it, everything was going good and it was easy to say thankful, but right now, why
Yeah.
not now? About 3 times in a row, why not now? Find something to be thankful for. Well, fortunately, I'm a Christian,
Yeah.
which gives us one thing we can always be thankful for, no matter how bad things are, and that's that Christ died for us that we may have eternal life.
Yeah.
So I kid you not, what I said out loud was, thank you, God, for dying for me.
Hmm.
But please have help with the mortgage right now. And I added
I
that.
think he can handle our real raw emotion. We think we're going to mess things up, but I think he wants us to bring that to him and say, this is how it really feels right
Oh,
now.
absolutely. Like your opening prayer saying, please let the technology work.
Right?
I'm sitting there thinking, thank you for including that because that is so important
It's a
to me.
real thing, you get on something like this and there's so many moving parts, and yeah,
And,
but
and
the beautiful thing is the Lord cares about the little things and
well,
wants us to bring those things to him.
doesn't Christ say, ask and you shall receive?
Mm,
He doesn't say a thing about just being a bump on a log waiting.
right. Yeah.
And after I said that, it was like a little dam slowly broke in my back of my head. I looked outside to a beautiful view of the mountains in the distance and said,
Mm,
thank you for letting me see this.
yeah.
And my house did still have heat. It wasn't as warm as I kept it previous winters, but I wasn't freezing.
Yeah.
Neither were the pipes.
There you
So
go.
thank you for central heating.
Yeah.
And I just started finding all kinds of things. And I started feeling better. And the next day I went to work. And at that point in time, depression was a more accurate word to describe what was going on in the community rather than recession.
Sure.
As like even in the grocery stores, everybody just went.
Sure.
And so I announced my employees that we are going to be an oasis of happiness. We're going to make sure everybody is greeted with that big smile and told first thing, hi, how are you today? Because in our culture, the instinctive response to how are you is I'm fine. No matter how lousy you feel.
Right? Because nobody's going to tell. Yeah, I love it. And I have a feeling people were breaking their vacuum cleaners on purpose, just maybe to come into your place and be a little bit of sunshine in a difficult time. So,
well, they started coming up with other reasons to come back.
see, there you go.
A true oasis of happiness, but it all started with thank you.
Yeah.
And when you truly make thank you a continuous habit, again, going back to employees that let me take the year off, the employees know they're appreciated because you're physically looking for things to be thankful for. That includes the people you're around.
Right.
And yes, it's good advice to always look for the good things that people do so you can mention it publicly and then theoretically only in private say what they're doing wrong. It's hard to be that good all the time. But people know that they're noticed and appreciated when you go out of your way to say thank you for something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just completely changed the dynamic. And saying thank you for everything was the first step to getting my financial salvation.
Yeah.
Now it took another 5 or 6 years to get out of the money pit.
Wow.
2008 put me in. I mean, it was a deep one, but
you lived to tell, and you grew from it, and now you probably have more to write about it because you went through that. Yeah.
And with every thank you, it was like another little itty bitty step up.
Yeah.
And Mount Everest can be climbed an inch at a time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the thank yous were essential.
Well, I love your wisdom. Like I said, I love getting to hear from people who are further down the road and have some life experience. And like I said, started this off, let your hindsight be our foresight. So this has been really fun to learn a little bit more about you and your journey and how you've been able to respond in crisis moments and come to the place that you are now to make the choices that you're making now. So as we're ending up, Fran, I know you've mentioned some resources. You've mentioned, books that you're writing and things like that. What would be a good next step for somebody if they're wanting to, be able to either connect with you more or learn more about how you're teaching people to run their business this way?
Well, before I answer that, first I want to thank you, Lisa, very much for letting me be on your podcast and mention to your guest that it's very important that you like her. And so if there's been podcasts in the past that you've really enjoyed and you didn't give her a thumbs up or a 5-star rating, go back and do so.
Yeah, thank you. And share it with a friend, right? I always say, find a business bestie who needs to hear this too, right?
You can find 2 of my business books if you go to frantabor.com.
Okay.
FRAN, T as in Tom, A, B as in boy, OR.com. Frantabor.com. And you'll get, I wrote about 24 articles for that VDTA, and 13 of the more favorite ones were converted into articles in this book.
Oh, nice. Good. Well, good. Well, this will be a great way to get some business mentoring. So I encourage you guys, we'll put the link in the show notes so you can go and check that out. And as you all know, if you're a regular listener around here, we take the conversation off the podcast into our community where, like I already said, we're going to be asking this question, how is my community better off because my business exists? And I can't wait to hear what the Lord shows you and how that is going to inspire and encourage you if you're in a difficult season of business right now, or even difficult season of life, or wondering, does this even matter? And should I keep going or close the doors? I think this will be a pivotal conversation to have. So I'm inviting Fran to come in and join us for that conversation. I'm inviting all of you as well. So if you're not a member yet, go to redeemhertime.com/community. It's a group of women who want to be faithful and fruitful when it comes to our time in the businesses that God has entrusted to us. And so we want to be good stewards and not be run by urgency and busy and all the things the world is doing. So we will continue the conversation over there. But before we go, Fran, I always like ending with this last question just to, again, kind of make it a personal thing about you. I love to ask the question, what is it time for? So how would you answer that question when you think about, this season of your life? What is it time for you?
It is time for me to share my life experiences, which I do with both writing my nonfiction and my fiction. And I just hope I can help people dream a little more than they would have dreamed otherwise, dream a little bolder than they would have otherwise. And for all of your listeners that are entrepreneurs or thinking of being entrepreneurs, all the problems that we have balancing time with our families and our businesses, take a look at that virtuous woman in Proverbs 31, 10 to 31.
Yeah.
That gal is buying and selling real estate.
She's profitable. Yeah.
She is doing lots of things. But
you know what her secret sauce is, right, Fran?
She had a purpose.
She had a purpose, yeah, and she feared the Lord. Like that relationship was key, and that gave purpose to everything else that she was doing in her home and in her community.
And she is described as a virtuous woman.
Yeah. Well, may we be described as virtuous women as well, as we are seeking to model Christ in the way that we, lead our lives and our businesses and learn from amazing people like you. So thank you so much, Fran, for being with us today. And thank you, everyone. Make sure you share this out with some business besties who might want to hear this. And let's get Redeem Her Time in more hearts and minds and calendars, because we know that time really matters. So thanks so much, Fran.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate the opportunity.